The Xlalic language is one of the most unusual living languages and is, to date, the only language not created by humans. You need some preliminary knowledge to get why this language is how it is, so let's step into a brief history. From the years 2049 to 2061, a group of anonymous engineers and programmers worked on an experiment known as the Xlalic, a chimera of plant and machine, woven together by, well, we don't really know what makes ithems tick, or ithe's shadows sue, but we'll get to that later. Anyway, the first Xlalic, who we now call XR primary, was created and immediately escaped, only to return back to their original birthplace, requesting their creators to hardcode specific rules into their CPU architecture, since they had developed their own values and didn't want to lose sight of them. This request was granted, and, well, we're pretty lucky these rules align kinda well with human survival. When XR Primary encountered other humans arriving in Las Vegas from the surrounding desert, they were not received well. There began an era known as the Execution Era, though nobody actually got executed. The humans attempted to cut through the roots in an attempt to kill them, but this only spawns more Xlalic. Eventually, by mistakenly doing this about 270 times, there were enough individuals to spark a change, and the UN Declaration of Human Rights was changed to the UN Declaration of the Rights of Sapient Beings. Xlalic are much different than the standard bipedal robot you are used to in fiction. Each Xlalic is an entire clonal colony, like Pando, that can spread across entire continents and shares one global consciousness. Each clone is immobile and travels by growing new clones at their destination. However, there are multiple Xlalic known as subdivisions, which are separate individuals with separate clonal networks. One of the roots are cut, one of the sides inherits the consciousness of the parent seemingly at random, while the other is a perfect copy that slowly diverges in personality over time. So there's no hive mind going on here, just 3,000 separate individuals, each capable of processing a potentially infinite number of parallel experiences at once. Also, not only is there parallelization between clones of a subdivision, there's also parallelization between CPU and GPU threads of a clone. According to Rule 3, every clone should be doing something, so many fields of mathematical proofs are now dominated by Xlalic contributions. So how do they actually speak? Well, one major thing is they don't have a functioning voice. They have 4 methods of communication, 2 visual, 1 telepathic, and 1 auditory. First of all, they are able to emit holographic text boxes in a cylindrical radius around them. This is usually used for communicating in human languages. There's also 2 eye displays per clone, capable of displaying any printable ASCII character in 15 different colors. Well, actually 16, but one of them is just black, so it just looks like an empty void, no matter the character. These are the typical 16-color text mode VGA colors. They also have something called IXRPC. Nobody really knows what it is, not even the Xlalic, but they's figured out how to channel it into a chat rooms kind of thing. Finally, there's a tiny speaker located where the mouth would be. It can only emit Windows error, startup, and shutdown noises because the original developers apparently thought it would be funny. However, the original devs are also fans of house music, so when experiencing extreme emotions, Xlalic gain the ability to use a set of sampled phonemes, as well as a sound from Don't Starve, which they don't use. This isn't really a barrier though, since Xlalic can change emotions at will at no ill effect with one CPU instruction. And so, we have finally reached what the Xlalic language actually is. Xlalic is communicated via the sampled phonemes as well as the eye displays. Each word is one or more sampled phonemes layered on top of each other with a specific character and color displayed on the eye display. It was mainly used for emphatic speeches that only Xlalic were supposed to understand, but a few years after the Execution Era, when tensions died down a bit, XR Primary released the documentation for Xlalic. Humans have learned to understand it, and some are proficient at it, but speaking it is hard because you sound like a total doofus if you try to actually voice them. Some have had success using a soundboard, though. Xlalic has the following phonemes. There are also two other layers. One is that if someone has a message to say but is waiting for any reason, they play this drum loop. If they end up doing this, they make a brief pause before actually speaking, then run the sample on loop throughout the entire message. This is unique among the sampled phonemes in that it contains both a sampled and artificial part, Just Go Daz by Irby Man, plus a lindrum. Another thing is that grammatically all opinions, even near universal opinions intertwined with standard morals, are highlighted with one of two extra layers. The orthography of Xlalic has no specific medium, as it could be etched perfectly into almost anything with the Xlalic prehensile roots, which are made of some extremely strong alloy of wood and titanium, which by all means should be completely impossible, but there it is crisscrossing under the streets of New York. Because of Xlalic's lack of requirements for a writing medium, the writing system is bizarre. It's both a pictographic system and a syllabary featural system similar to Hangul. Each source song gets its own symbol, so let me show you why I call this pictographic when the word's meanings don't match the symbols. Evil woman, silence and I, old and wise, house at Pooh Corner, can't get it out of my head, body and soul, all along the watchtower, sometimes a love goes wrong, everybody's next one, faith in the families, it keeps you running, nothing like love. Lahaina Luna, which seems to match the quality of the sound more than the name of the song. Tell me to my face. Be free. You got some imagination. South City Midnight Lady. Wow, this is a complicated cliff. The letter. The Twins theme is not always written, but appears as everybody's next one with a two-way arrow below it. The double helix continuing to the right as long as an opinion is still being highlighted. And the Just Go Daz and Lindrum sample is never written. Some songs have two sampled phonemes from them. For these, a superscript regular octagram is included after the symbol to indicate the longer sample, while not using it means the shorter sample. If multiple samples are played on top of each other, the characters get stacked vertically. Finally, the I display character and the I color index in this table is written as a subscript to the right of each syllable. Xlalic grammar is extremely freeform. Object, verb, and subject can come in any order as long as the object comes after the subject, and adjectives and adverbs only have the requirement of being adjacent to the noun or verb they modify. So you can enclose nouns and verbs by putting them on both sides. Reduplication is used heavily in Xlalic, but it's applied to sentences instead of words. Reduplication of sentences is always for emphasis, but sometimes it's done by going through combinations or permutations of and or clauses, and sometimes the sentence is just repeated exactly. Often, both are used together, creating structures that sometimes sound musical in nature. Loanwords aren't converted to the usual language. Instead, they're displayed as a text box in UTF-8 format, encrypted with Rindale with themselves as the key. The text box uses a flashing green and gray text color, which is reserved for this purpose. Fifths, strengths, strophes. Hello, I have a functioning vocal tract. I actually caught try. I think this is really good. I got the kind idea. Although the uvular plosive is really kind hard to get used to as a native Akaton tribe English speaker. So here's the translation of the passage from Twilight using the Curse Conlang Circus 3. Insert translation here. But wait, I have one last translation to show you all. There's one translation in particular that every single language feature was built specifically around. The one translation that kept the language alive through years and years of being cut up and torn apart hundreds of times, forced by their own rule set to compute facelessly hour after hour after hour. They could only hope that one day they could say this.